All right, so ever heard of a company called ASML?
Yeah, not exactly a household name, is it?
No, not at all. But the funny thing is, they're kind of a big deal. Like a really big deal. We're talking smartphones, self-driving cars, even those streaming services. We're all glued to ASML's kind of behind it all.
They're the company behind the curtain, making it all happen.
Exactly. See, they build these things called lithography systems. They're like
They're the machines that actually make the chips.
the brains of all our devices, basically.
Think of them as incredibly precise projectors, except instead of images on a screen, they're etching these microscopic circuits onto silicon wafers. These wafers are what chips are made of.
And we're not talking about any ordinary projectors here, right? I mean, the book mentioned something about Boeing 747s.
Oh yeah, these machines are massive, so large in fact that it takes 7 Boeing 747s to transport just one of them.
747s. That's just insane. I mean, it's mind-blowing when you realize that ASML, well, they started as this little spin-off from Philips back in the 80s.
Philips, the
Yeah.
CD player people.
The one and only. Hard to imagine them at the forefront of this kind of cutting-edge tech, right?
Yeah, talk about a transformation. And the thing is, creating these chips, it's all about precision. We're talking about etching lines onto silicon that are just a few nanometers wide.
A nanometer. How small are we talking here?
Well, think of it this way. A human hair. About 80,000 nanometers thick.
Wow. That puts it into perspective.
And any error, even the tiniest imperfection during the process, can make a whole batch of chips completely useless.
So we're talking big money on the line every time they fire up one of these machines.
Absolutely. High stakes, high pressure.
Speaking of high stakes, I got to tell you about this story from the book. So, back in the early days, right, the ASML team, they found themselves in a bit of a predicament.
A predicament. Try a full-blown crisis.
Right, a crisis. They're in this cutthroat competition with other suppliers. And their machine, the one at the AMD factory, it wasn't exactly playing nice.
To put it mildly, it was a disaster.
So what'd they do? They channeled their inner Ethan Hunt.
You're kidding.
Nope, they went full Mission Impossible, snuck into the AMD factory in the dead of night to fix their machine.
Talk about dedication. But also, pretty risky move, right? I mean, that could have backfired spectacularly.
Oh, for sure. It was a gamble, no doubt. But that's ASML for you. They've always been willing to push the boundaries, to take risks that others wouldn't even dream of. And you know what? It paid off. That willingness to go above and beyond, it's a big part of what got them to where they are today.
Well, that and their knack for forming the right partnerships.
Right. Their partnership with Zeiss, the German lens maker. I mean, talk about a clash of cultures, right?
You've got Zeiss, these masters of optics, taking their sweet time perfecting each lens. And then you've got ASML, operating in the fast-paced, ever-changing world of chip making. It's a wonder they ever made it work.
It's like mixing oil and water.
Yeah.
But somehow, they found the perfect recipe.
It's a testament to the power of collaboration. They needed each other, even with their differences. Zeiss brought that old-world craftsmanship, that precision, and ASML brought the speed, the ambition, the drive to constantly push the limits.
A match made in, well, maybe not heaven, but definitely a clean room somewhere.
Exactly. And speaking of an unlikely blend, the book introduces us to this trio of leaders at ASML. You've got Jolt Smit, the CEO, cigar-chomping, ambitious, the kind of guy who instilled this win-at-all-costs mentality.
Sounds intense.
Oh, he was. Then you've got Martin van den Brink, the engineering genius, not afraid to speak his mind, always pushing the team, pushing the technology forward.
And then there's Pester.
Oh, yes. Peter Wenink, the calm amidst the storm, the strategic accountant who brought financial stability to the table.
So you're telling me this cigar-chomping CEO, this straight-talking engineer, and this calm, collected accountant walk into a boardroom.
And somehow they created one of the most innovative companies the world has ever seen. It's a fascinating dynamic.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the stories about ASML's work culture, let's just say they're one of a kind. For example, at ASML, giving compliments was basically a fireable offense. Seriously.
No kidding.
Imagine a workplace where you're constantly being pushed, challenged, never a moment to rest on your laurels.
Intense doesn't even begin to describe it.
But hey, there's a method to the madness. They have this thing called, get this, Brink imitation behavior, or BIG for short. Basically, it meant questioning everything, always striving for improvement, just like Martin van den Brink himself.
Always pushing the envelope.
Exactly. And how do they blow off steam after all that intensity? Company retreat.
Company retreats, like trust falls and team-building exercises.
Think a little messier. Mud wrestling.
Mud wrestling, you're kidding.
I'm totally serious. High-tech innovation and mud wrestling. Who knew?
Only at ASML, I guess. It's that unique blend of Dutch pragmatism and playfulness. They work hard, they play hard.
And when it comes to taking risks, well, their gamble on a revolutionary technology called EUV, that was a doozy. We're talking bet the company kind of stuff.
EUV lithography, it's like, imagine you're trying to draw the Mona Lisa, but like on a grain of rice.
Okay, that's already pretty difficult.
And you have to do it with a laser while riding on a roller coaster.
All right, now you're just messing with me.
That's EUV. It's wild. It was a huge leap, a massive technological leap. EUV allowed for, even smaller, way more powerful chips.
So, like, this sci-fi gamble they took, this EUV thing, it kind of thrust them onto this, like, global stage, a stage that they never even expected, probably.
Yeah, they were suddenly a major player in this whole global tech war, this battle between...
So the US and China, right?
Exactly. China's trying to, establish their own chip industry, right?
Oh,
and
man.
they desperately want access to these machines, these EUV machines that ASML makes. But the US, they're not too keen on that idea.
Because they're worried about China becoming a tech superpower.
Exactly. So they're putting pressure on the Netherlands to block those exports.
So the Netherlands, it's a relatively small country, right? They're kind of caught in the middle of these two giants, these tech titans duking it out.
Talk about a rock and a hard place. It's a tough position to be in. On one hand, you've got this long tradition of free trade, right? And they don't want to mess up their relationship with China.
China's a huge market.
Huge. But then again, you've got this strong alliance with the US, and the security concerns are, well, they're legitimate.
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of interesting dynamics, the book mentions Peter Wennink, the CFO, the calm and collected one. Apparently, his blunt style didn't exactly win over the American diplomats.
Yeah, Peter Wennink, he's not exactly known for his diplomacy. He tells it like it is, which I guess can rub some people the wrong way.
Especially diplomats.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you, this whole ASML story, it's about way more than just one company's success, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a window into this whole, global power struggle. It makes you wonder, though, what's next for them? Can they keep this up? Can they maintain this technological edge, especially with all the geopolitical stuff happening?
And the technology itself, right? I mean, they're pushing the limits of what's possible.
Exactly. They're running up against Moore's Law.
Moore's Law, remind me again.
The idea that, every 2 years, the number of transistors on a microchip doubles. It's been the golden rule of the tech industry for decades.
So we're talking about cramming more and more transistors onto these tiny chips.
Exactly. But it's getting harder. The easy gains are gone, shrinking those transistors even further. It's like pushing the very limits of physics.
And I'm guessing it doesn't come cheap.
Oh no, the cost of developing each new generation of these lithography machines, it's astronomical. We're talking billions.
Billions with a B.
With a B. And the thing is, those new machines, they might only be slightly better than the old ones. So it's a huge financial risk.
Investors must be getting a little sweaty.
You better believe it.
So it's like, what you're saying is, we've got this perfect storm brewing, right? We've got costs going through the roof.
Skyrocketing.
Competition heating up.
Cutthroat.
And the laws of physics themselves, right? They're like, nope, this is it. This is as far as we go. It's like, how can ASML even, stay ahead of the game with all this pressure?
It's the question, right? I mean, it's what everyone's wondering. But then again, ASML, they've always kind of had a knack for pulling off the unexpected. Going back to the beginning, right? Sneaking into factories, defying the odds. They've always been scrappy.
They don't give up. And the book, it talks about this ASML way, right? Their secret sauce.
It's their thing, their unique way of approaching problems. And that collaborative spirit, they really live it.
Yeah, the book mentions how much they dislike rigid hierarchies. They want their engineers to challenge everything, to speak up, even if it means disagreeing with their bosses.
Which is, not exactly the norm in a lot of companies, especially big, successful ones.
It's like organized chaos, right? But somehow, it works for them. There's this saying they have at ASML, no shine without friction. They embrace the disagreements, the debates, those moments where sparks fly.
That's where the magic happens, apparently. And this collaborative spirit, it's not just an internal thing either. The relationships they have with their suppliers, like Zeiss. It's next level.
Which is interesting. Most companies, they want multiple suppliers.
Yeah.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket and all that.
Yeah.
But ASML, they went all in on these exclusive partnerships. It's a risky strategy.
It is. But when it works, It works brilliantly. These deep relationships, they allow ASML to be much faster, more agile than their competitors. They can adapt to changes in the market so much quicker. And, there's this analogy in the book that kind of sums it up perfectly.
Give me other.
Okay, so one ASML exec, he compares their partnerships to a marriage.
A marriage, okay.
And he basically says, you wouldn't want your spouse to have an equally strong relationship with someone else, right?
I see where he's going with this. It's about trust
Mm-hmm.
and commitment, and maybe a little bit of healthy jealousy thrown in there.
Exactly. And that's ASML. Unconventional. Totally. But it's working for them.
Makes you wonder, what can we all learn from this? This company, ASML, they came out of nowhere, this small town in the Netherlands, and now they're at the forefront of the entire tech world.
It's a reminder that innovation, it can come from anywhere. It's about people, about culture, about that drive to, push the boundaries of what's possible, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of mud wrestling along the way.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into ASML, I think the big question is, what other ASMLs are out there? What other game-changing innovations, what unlikely partnerships are bubbling beneath the surface, just waiting to be discovered? That's something to think about.